coming out, for braving the weather, and for being with us tonight for our very first Art the Vote event. I am... We are just really excited to be here. Thank you to Lady Justice for hosting us and for welcoming us into your beautiful space. And thank you to all the artists involved. As you can see, these are some of the submissions to our Art the Vote campaign. We have, I'm Deanna, by the way. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm with the ACLU in Colorado. There's many of my teammates around here, and we'd love to just get to know you more and enjoy this night together. Just really quick, I want to give a little shout out to, if you haven't had some food, there's food in the back, but we had some amazing support from Bon and Butter, who catered the event. So they are a locally owned and operated bakery just a few blocks down from Lady Justice, so please support them and visit them again. I wolfed that sandwich down, just so enjoy it. They specialize in Asian, French-inspired pastries, and their goal is to not only grow and innovate their company, but also the communities that they serve. So I know you're all about it, and you'll visit them. We also have a raffle tonight, so if you didn't get a chance, please sign up for our email list and enter for a ticket to win. The two prizes include ACLU swag, which will be some stickers, mugs, shirts, and a crawler from Lady Justice, and an artist print. So if you have not entered the raffle, please do. We're going to announce the winners at the end, and if you're not, then we'll get in touch with you with your email. So I'm going to stop talking because I want to pass the mic. We have a very special guest here tonight. This is Chloe Duplessis, if you haven't had a chance to meet her yet. Chloe creates images that illuminate the forgotten, elevate the unknown, and mindfully address the present. She seeks to erode. Yes, that's right. She seeks to erode the social constructs that oppress people of color and people who have disabilities. She's a legally blind artist, historian, and culture bearer committed to creating work that centers equity, accessibility, and healing. And we are so delighted to have her with us tonight. So everyone give it up for Chloe.
Thank you so much. And I tell you what, can you all hear me? Are you good? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm the grandchild of a Baptist preacher, so I'm used to God protecting me in my hand.
Yes.
But I am really in a space of gratitude tonight to be here. Thanks so much to RJ for reaching out, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. So I want to hear from you tonight. I'm going to speak a little bit and talk about my practice and how creativity connects to the vote, but I want to hear from you, and I want to kind of hear what's been bubbling in your spirit. How are you all feeling in one word about the upcoming election? Just shout it out, one word.
Stress.
Stress, nervous, all the things, right? All the things, right? And how many of you are really kind of percolating and thinking about the significance of every election now? Because I don't know about you, I'm 43. So when I was coming up, people were really focused on like the big elections. But here's the thing, as energy shifts and as people's rights are taken away, we are fully aware that every election is the big election, right? So I'm originally from Louisiana, if you haven't guessed by my twang. I moved to Colorado 3 years ago, 3 months before the pandemic. Yes, thank you. The amazing shout of gratitude you heard a few minutes ago is my 5-year-old daughter, Zoe. Shout out. We roll as a family. Wherever I go, they go, and that's my wonderful husband, Sean. So I came here, and I want to give a little bit of background on me and why I choose to show up and why the vote is so important to me. So my parents are part of the civil rights movement. My grandparents filed a suit to desegregate the school system in Caddo Parish, where I'm from. It's North Louisiana at Shreveport, about 3 hours from Dallas, and about 4 hours from New Orleans. Just in case you thought New Orleans was all Louisiana is. I get it, it's amazing. I went to college there, it's amazing. Food, everything. So my mom was our area's Ruby Bridges. when the consent decree came and they said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and everyone has to go to school together, in the effort to discourage people from moving forward with it, intimidation, they said, you can't send my eldest aunt, Beryl, for whom the suit was named. You have to send your youngest child, my mother, Carolyn, who was 5. So my grandparents thought about it and they prayerfully decided to move forward. They said, things just have to change. There's no equity. We've got to do it. So my mom's memories of her kindergarten year and her first year in school were being called the N-word every single day, playing by herself every single day, with the exception of 2 days when 2 classmates approached her and gently rubbed her arm to see if the brown would rub off. So fast forward to being brought up in this household of educators and civil rights leaders. This is my norm, right? Which is why I majored in history in college. Fast forward to that. I have that forever on my background. One of my first experiences with discrimination was at the same age as my mother. I was 5. My mother married my stepfather who moved to Allison Air Force Base in Alaska. She thought it's a clean slate. The energy will be different. I came home after my very first day of school and I told my mom, I had such a good day, Mom. She said, well, what happened? She's chopping vegetables in the kitchen. And she said, tell me everything. I said, well, so much happened. I'll just share 2 things with you. And she said, okay, baby. I said, well, I have a new friend, because you know when you're 5, you make friends like that, honey, it's everything. And I have a new nickname. So here's the thing, I didn't have a nickname. So my mother begins chopping the vegetables slowly, and she says, Chloe, what is your new nickname? And I looked at her with a bold, gap-toothed smile, bigger than this, because I was missing teeth. I was 5, remember? And I was so overjoyed and so happy, and I told her, Mama, they told me my name is just for me. My name is Niggr, except I said the word. My mother immediately dropped the knife, and tears began to roll down her face. I was confused. I was so happy. This was good news. She ushers me into the room with my little brother to watch television. She gets on the phone with my stepfather and says, call your commander. We better have a meeting. And the 2 weeks that followed, it was very strange at home, and even stranger at school. And then things went back to our perception of normal, which often happens now. Something happens, someone dies, someone's rights are taken away, and it's strange, and it's odd, and it's awkward. And then we kind of settle into this rhythm, and we accept it, or we just try to get by because we're moving in survival mode. My mother thought by leaving the South and moving as far as you can get from that kind of energy that was neatly packed away at the bottom of the country, when in fact it's everywhere, that she had avoided that. It wasn't until 20 plus years later that I knew her story. And I can only imagine now as a mother of a 5-year-old how hurtful that must have been for her to have that experience that far away. The scourge of racism and discrimination and oppression is not something that you can outrun. It's not something that's packed away in one corner of our country. It's something that is written into the systems. It's a fundamental part of living this existence in the Western world. And the only way we can have a meaningful opportunity to show up in real time to ensure that everyone's voice is heard is to take seriously the right to vote. This is a piece that I created in January. I travel the country. So my company is called Duplessis Art. We have 3 people, and we live art, creativity, and community. So I'm based here in Denver Metro, and I create 2 big shows a year, and those travel the country. I do artist talks, I engage with people. The other part of the year when I'm actually here, I partner with businesses and organizations to do art therapy sessions. We pray, we do drum circle, we paint, we get dirty, we have fun, and it's all the things. So I was in St. Croix doing all the things with the Caribbean Museum Center for the Arts. This is a duplicate. The original is actually a part of their permanent collection now. And while I was in St. Croix, I was so inspired by the sugar plantations and by the slave trade and the history and the culture and the beautiful people that when it came time to create a piece, I wanted to create a piece that was representative of my roots and celebrated women of the diaspora. Because in my research over the past year and a half, and being a part of that art collective in St. Croix, I learned just how much it means to show up, even when you have no idea of how things will turn out in the future. And I identified with women, specifically women of color, who had no choice. No choice. And then I began thinking about my ancestors, going back 2 or 3 generations, who didn't even know I would exist. Think now about your parents, okay, right? Now think about your grandparents, if you're blessed to know them. Now go back 2 more generations. You probably didn't know those people, right? Maybe you heard about them, maybe photos come out during a holiday, it's a whole thing. But no matter what your ethnic background is, your history, your story, if you are familiar with history, it was pretty crappy for everybody. Now, crappier for some, that's a given, but you know, it just kind of sucked about 100, 200, 300 years ago. But all of our ancestors, what did they do? They continued to show up. They didn't even know you'd be here. They moved with a sense of grace and commitment because they thought, surely it's gotta get better, right? So here we are, 2022. We've all survived a pandemic. Tell you that we didn't even know what's coming. We thought we were going home for 2 weeks, right? Oh, we're gonna Netflix, we're gonna chill, I'm gonna take out. I'll let y'all later. I needed a vacation, like all the things, right? Even people who got laid off, oh man, I'm laid off, it's gonna be tough. But you know what? I've been to quit by 3 years. So like, really. So people were in a space, and then that 3 weeks turned into 3 months. And 3 months turned into 9 months, and a year, and another year. And people we love left. They got a cough, they couldn't breathe. How crazy is that? And they left. And you're wearing masks everywhere to protect yourself and other people, to be considerate. And you're afraid to go places that you used to frequent all the time. And then your mind begins to think about all the ways that you have been protected and blessed, because we could have had something like this years ago. Ask anyone in the food industry. And then the coworker you haven't seen in a few months, you hear about them transitioning, COVID, or natural causes. And then the person that you grew up with, your mom calls you and tells you that they're no longer here. People were leaving here in record time. We were ushered inside, and the only escape we had was our devices, our phones, our laptops, our tablets. But here's the thing that shifted energy. We can no longer ignore the state of our union indoors, because just like we were watching that favorite show on HBO Max or Netflix, we were also getting things in our social media feed of people being abused, being beaten, being killed. So, if you're one of the people who is very fortunate enough to say that you have never experienced discrimination prior to 2019 or 2020, because I do encounter some people who say that they've never encountered discrimination, then congratulations. But I will tell you this, as human beings, we are bound to each other. We are here and should be here for each other. So just in case you had not been personally affected by some type of crisis, by your rights being removed, by some type of injustice, if you know who George Floyd was, who Breonna Taylor was, who Mark Aubrey was, and the over 1,100 people who passed away that year unnecessarily, then guess what? You have what I call in my community a Negro story. You have a story and you are connected, because you cannot unsee or unhear or unexperience someone's trial or tribulation. And by exercising your right to vote, you're not just making a way to have funding for a new school or expand capacity for activities in your community, or elect someone who shares your values, who believes that everyone has value. Everyone. And everyone should have the right to love and to marry. And everyone should have the right to walk down the street and not have to look over their shoulder. You just maybe are casting a vote to elect someone who will say that enough is enough. I want you to be mindful of the things in this piece. I'm gonna hold it up so you can see it, or I'll position it that way. This piece is 437 individual pieces. Now, people often meet me and they say, for one thing, I like your shades. I'm like, hey, thank you. Secondly, they're like, we're indoors, what's that about? I'm like, hey, well, I'm legally blind. And they're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, well, how would you? But now you do. So 2 weeks before we decided to move to Denver, I went to the eye doctor. Now, I was a kid that always wore glasses ever since like kindergarten. Like I went in and they were just like, whoa, you're going home with a list. So I've always been that kid with glasses, like huge Coke bottle glasses, those. So when I went to the eye doctor, right before we got ready to move to Denver, I had a little bit of fuzziness in my vision, but I thought I had dry eyes from working all night. My doctor comes in and he says, 2 things have happened. Either you've had an aneurysm or you have a rare genetic condition called Stargardt disease. And I was like, gosh, okay, better and better. So tell me what this means. He said, well, I'm gonna send you to a specialist and I'll let them rule out. The specialist comes in and says, Chloe, you have Stargardt disease. So I'll give you the good and the not so good. I said, so what's the good? They said, do you really want the good first? I said, you're right, give me the not so good. So you have this condition, not much is known, it's super rare, and even though they're making research, there probably won't be a cure in your lifetime, you will eventually lose your vision. I was like, wow, okay, so what's the good? Well, there are 2 strains of the condition, and the very first one robs you of your vision between the ages of 12 and 16. You have the latter. We know less about that one, but it gives you a little bit more time. I said, well, I still lose my vision. He said, yes. I said, when? He said, I don't know. It could be a gradual dimming of the light, or you could just wake up one day and you'll be gone. So as I sat in that chair, I said, what do I do with this? He said, well, I would encourage you to file for disability. Go home, equip your house, and share this with your family members, and just ride this thing out. My husband picks me up, I'm in the car, I'm not overly emotional, contrary to popular belief, because I am dramatic, I'm almost in here. I get in the car and I'm sobbing, and he's like, what is going on with that? And I'm like, I lose a vision. So he never changes his demeanor. And I said, did you hear what I said? I'm going to lose my vision, I'm going blind. And he goes, yeah, so what are we gonna do? I said, you're not understanding. He said, I do. I don't know about the diagnosis, Chloe, but I know you. So you decide what you're gonna do. I said, you didn't sign up for this. He said, but I did. You decide what you're going to do. My daughter was 3 years old. I told him to take my daughter to my mom's house and give me a night. And then at night, I was in prayer and meditation, and I asked God, what do I do with this? Because I had created a career that spanned 20 years that required, I thought, vision. I was a business owner. I was an arts administrator. I worked for a mayor. Everything I did required sight, required vision. And then at 3 in the morning, I woke up with tears in my eyes once again, with happy tears. Because all I could think about was what the doctor said. The first strain of this disease will rob you of your vision between 12 and 16. And y'all, all I could think about was everything I had seen at 12 and 13 and so forth. My friends, growing up in the country with my cousins, going to college, meeting my husband, canvassing for people who I believed in for the right to vote, voter registration drives, serving people on Thanksgiving, which is our practice now. We serve first and then we go and have a meal as a reminder to everyone that we love that everyone doesn't have the same experience. Traveling to Europe in my 20s, working in government, all of these beautiful memories, an amazing ice cream cone, a piece of king cake. If you're from Louisiana, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a glorified cinnamon roll we do for Mardi Gras. Like all of these things that brought me such joy. And I could not help but cry tears of joy and feel a sense of gratitude that I had been given my vision for 39 years. Your story is different, but you still have a story. And when people ask me how I stay so upbeat and so focused on arts and civic duty, I tell them, you don't have to have survived a pandemic, have a life, health crisis, have lost a loved one to choose to show up every single day. When I wake up in the morning, whether I can see clearly out of one eye or it's fuzzy, if I have any measure of sight, the first thing I do is say my prayers and kiss my child. And then I say, we got work to do. No matter what you have been navigating, only you know. But you have some great resources at your disposal. You were born in an age where people actually care and will hold people accountable, like amazing organizations like the ACLU. And you have the right to vote, a right that people literally left this earth for. It is not to be taken lightly or for granted. You are important. And if you are someone who leans into your creativity as an artist, oftentimes we have a chance to dismiss our own power, our own value. Our voices are needed more than ever. We're a reflection of the times. And if you're someone who does not identify as someone creative, but you love the arts and you care about what's going on, your voice is needed just as much. It's time for us to be mindful in our approach. It's time for us to put in people who honor our values. It's time for us to ensure that moving forward, everybody is seen and heard. I appreciate your energy and time tonight. It's been a blessing to share with you. I'll be around afterwards just to kind of connect with you if you have a question or idea. My studio is in Denver. My website is duplessisart.com. Holla at me, show some love. And if you live in Denver County or the city of Denver, honey, when you go to vote next Tuesday, unless you early voted, hats off to you, you will have the opportunity to choose the city and the country's very first accessible I voted sticker. I was commissioned to do this in April, we unveiled it in September, and this is the very first sticker in the history of the United States that will have Braille. It uses low vision friendly colors for people like me who have macular degeneration or inherited eye disease. So that could be me, or it could be, you know, your granny. Honey, 'cause when you hit 60, it starts shifting on you. Something to look forward to. But it also has sign language. If you happen to see, if you've been to Denver Central Market, you probably saw the mural. It's called the Holders Home Mural. It was the very first mural we created last year in the history of Denver, created by two women navigating disability. I did it with my friend Valerie Rose. She's a half-deaf painter and artist. It is now one of the most visited murals in the city of Denver. And that's significant because Denver has an amazing art scene. The beauty of this mural is that what started as just us saying that everyone should have value, even people navigating disability, has turned into this really beautiful rite of passage if you come to the city. So at least once a week, y'all, I am tagged on Instagram by high school students experiencing mental challenges or experiencing autism. They're taking their senior pictures there. Someone tagged me 2 months ago, they got married there. They were both navigating disability. People will shout me out and say, this is for my sister, this is for my cousin, this is for my mom that passed away who was blind. It has become this really cool cultural thing that creates awareness and brings people together. That's what art does. And believe it or not, that's what voting does. So I encourage you to think hard and long about how to cast your vote and to take pride in doing so. Not just because so many people left this planet for us to have it, all have it, but because it's needed on more than our vote. I appreciate your time tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
I don't know about you all, I needed that. I needed that, and I thank you for being with us tonight. And that's what's so special about this. So we're gonna take a little breather so you all can like take in the art, talk to Chloe, enjoy more of this amazing food, have another beer. I did want to flag that a portion of the sales from your second beer tonight goes to our friends at the Harm Reduction Action Center. So toast to them, support them. They do great things in community. But the opportunity to be here together, to be surrounded by beauty, to be uplifted, to have our cups filled is what it's all about. It really helps sustain the work that we do. The ACLU, if you don't know, we have been around for 70 years. We just celebrated 70 years as the state's oldest, largest civil rights and civil liberties organization. And so what if we're not in community together? And so you all being here tonight is amazing. And I want to just have everyone mix it up a little bit more, and then we'll circle back. We're gonna hear from my friend Sophia, we're gonna hear from RJ. But enjoy a little bit of time, have some food, have some drinks, and one more time for Chloe.